Hello everyone and welcome to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today I have received a question from someone and I'm going to try to answer it. And the question is, does cramming work? Cramming, for those of you who don't know, is when you sit in front of a book and you try to remember 1,000 words or maybe 500 words or even 100 words from the book, and you try to make basic sentences, and it's a quick way of connecting yourself with the language. Does it work? That's the question. My answer is no, it doesn't work. Of course, if you have that kind of memory, it can let you speak fast and communicate faster, but is it a good way of learning in the long term? Although it sounds perfect, I would say absolutely not. Let me explain. So imagine that you are standing outside of your apartment and 100 people walk by. Let's say they walk by the main entrance and you wave to them and you invite them to come into your apartment. So let's say 100 people, are now standing in your apartment. Why? What possible use would you have for 100 people standing in your apartment? They're all in there. You come into your apartment, now you say, okay, I have 100 people in here. What am I going to do with them? You don't know them. You don't know how they work. You don't know who they are. You might not even feel safe around them. Maybe you've asked their names on the way in, but do you think you're going to remember them? No, you probably won't. But imagine that you're standing outside of your apartment and one friend walks by. You know them, you feel comfortable with them, you invite them in, you have tea. If your friend has brought another friend, then I think that's a beautiful thing. And that friend in turn might introduce you to other people. That would be a much more natural way of getting people inside your apartment to socialize with them. And it's the very same with cramming. Why would you want to sit in front of a book with random words in English that you probably won't use, at least not in the short term, to learn? Why would you do that? Some people say, oh, but I have to learn some words to make a sentence. That's very true. And very, very basic words you almost certainly would use in very basic sentences. So they would come naturally after a short period of time. Let me just give you some more information to kind of back up this argument. Language is a creative principle. It's something which is alive and something which we use to express love, to express creativity, and to express other things in a society. That thing is real, and you know as well as I do that right at this moment there are people speaking English all around the world. You know that it's 100% definitely there. There's no doubt about that. But when you reduce that language down to a commodity where it becomes something that you buy and sell, then your whole world is reduced. And that language is no longer a creative principle. It's just something else which you capitalize upon. Let me just give you an example of that. So imagine then that you have 30 minutes today or 1 hour with your language exchange partner. There is a feeling there that you give 1 hour of your time, and in return you get 1 hour or 30 minutes worth of English, because you're exchanging two languages, presumably 30 minutes in English and 30 minutes in something else. Okay. When you treat language like a commodity, everyone is reduced. When you buy an English lesson from an English teacher, if you see it in terms of, okay, I'll pay £10 or £20 and I will get £20 worth of English back, so it's a good investment, then you are completely mistaken. That's not how language learning works. So you need to make sure that you have your approach correct. Because without the correct approach to language learning, you will succeed a little bit, but you won't get very far if everything is reduced to money. Because when you reduce a language down, as indeed some language schools do, then you get a bit stuck because you're only seeing it in its material value. But in a language exchange or in a teaching session, if you're receiving affirmation, motivation, and encouragement to grow, or in the case of a language exchange, maybe getting to know someone in someone's life, that's a beautiful thing. And that's very, very different from seeing language as a commodity. That's about getting to know people. It's being motivated or affirmed in a language lesson, people assuring you that you can do this, and also, of course, helping you with your grammar and with your words. But it can't be seen as something that you can buy and sell with time or with money. That's completely the wrong approach to use. As a teacher, people come to me and tell me that they're learning English for many reasons. Some people say, okay, I'm learning English because I want to be a public speaker. I want to give presentations on money advice, financial advice. Some people come to me and say, oh, I'm learning English because I want to teach people how to make money quickly. Other people come to me and say, oh, I'm learning English because I want to change my job. Okay, now these, of course, are all very good reasons for learning, but any English teacher is going to be concerned first and foremost about language. So let's just say, for example, you tell your English teacher, nice to meet you. I'm learning English because I want to change my job. I would hesitate before I tell the person, absolutely fine, let me help you. Because it doesn't sound there like their first concern is English. It sounds like their first concern is changing their job. Now, of course, I would teach them. There's no problem with that. But I would question whether they would be very successful. The most successful students are ones who come to me and who say, well, I want to learn the language. Because those people are very dedicated simply to learning. The issue of finance and commodity and changing work, it may well be there somewhere because that might be in their minds as well. But when someone is dedicated to learning the language, they're looking for ways to share. They're looking for ways to connect. They have an open mind with regards to how the language works, how they're going to get involved with it. And that's a much healthier and wider way of approaching a language than saying, I want to change my work, which would be a very narrow and constricted reason for learning. Of course, both concern language, but I would say that the one who's dedicated to the language is going to end up speaking more fluently and more quicker than the one who's doing this with an ulterior motive. That becomes very clear when stress comes up, because the person who's learning the language simply because he wants a new job, he's looking at the clock and he's saying, oh my God, it's been a month now, my English is no better, I have to cram. And that's where this idea of cramming comes from, that there is something imposed upon the person with time. He needs to have that new job or promotion by 3 o'clock on the 26th of February. But the person who's able to see language in a more general way, without the ravages of time, he is going to be more successful because he's not going to be so stressed about this, and he's giving all of himself to the language rather than looking at the clock and the date and worrying about his progress. He will make progress faster because he knows where he's going. He wants to learn and explore the language based around his needs, his wants, his hobbies, maybe his studies as well. That's a very different thing from saying, okay, I'm going to throw money at you, Mr. Teacher, and I'm going to expect my English to be perfect. That's a way of negating your responsibilities of study by putting the pressure on the teacher to produce English for you, which you're not going to remember anyway. So we're back to the same statement that we have in more or less all of these podcasts. Your approach to learning cannot be one of commodity, where you give your time, you get 30 minutes of English. You give your money, you get in return an hour's worth of English. That really isn't how it works. You pay the money and you give your time, because what that does is it leaves your mind open to learning. But if you cloud that with commodity, cash, only for my next new job, your learning will happen, but it's going to be a bit pressured and it's unlikely to produce any kind of beneficial results. I was talking to my friend the other day who's a piano teacher, and we were talking about this exact point. My friend who is a piano teacher, he was saying that when he gets students, if any of them come to him and say, oh, I'm learning the piano because I want to be a famous pianist, I want to play concerts, my friend who is the piano teacher always says, no, I'm not taking you as a student. And that's quite surprising, isn't it? But let me explain. My friend who is a piano teacher says that the first and foremost thing that he's teaching is music. And therefore, if someone comes to him and says, I want to learn music, he says, fine. And automatically, that person will attract other people to hear his music, because it's coming from a place of joy and happiness. But people who want to be concert pianists, they want to be the center of attention, they want to be in a hall, and they want an artificial audience to hear them play so that they can earn a lot of money. Now, those are two very different ways of looking at learning how to play the piano. One is saying, yeah, I want to learn music because I enjoy it. Let's see where that goes. The other is saying, I don't care about your music. I just want to be a concert pianist. So therefore, you will teach me music. I will give you money. And the result will be I'll get what I want. Both will probably be quite successful if they find a teacher that accepts them. But the one with the very strong ambition there, which is all about money, is less likely to connect so well with the music, or as we are talking about with language. So going on a full circle now, all the way back to the beginning, does cramming work? Well, if it's because your approach is about time and money, the answer is, well, it can maybe help you a little bit, But in the general rules of learning a language, which is all about feeling emotion and love, think of those 50 or 100 people you have standing in your apartment that you don't know, then yeah, you get somewhere with it. But the most successful people are the ones who start off with a few friends and then invite more in from a place of love. Well, I hope that helps. I think I've made my point. So I'll go now, and I wish you all a wonderful day ahead.